I travel a lot, and as a result, my AeroPress gets a serious workout. This is what's in my suitcase with me all the time. But I don't have just like one recipe that I use all the time. The AeroPress is not only a versatile coffee brewer, but it's a fun tool to play with and experiment with. So when I'm traveling, I do experiment constantly with new recipes. At the end of the day, I have like 3 kind of go-to recipes. So on today's episode, I'm just gonna walk you through my 3 recipes. One is kind of like easy and simple. I call it the French press method. The second is kind of like a latte or an Americano style, maybe even an espresso style. And the third and final one is kind of an experimental filter version that I've played with quite a bit, and I get really nice sweet results. So let's jump in with it. I'm gonna start with the standard. I call this the French press method or the inverted French press method. Basically, you take your AeroPress, you put the plunger into it just barely, and then set it upside down on your scale. You don't need a scale once you get really good at understanding kind of the markings. And you want to use this every single time, you don't need a scale. Obviously, when you're traveling, you might not have a scale and you're kind of guessing a bit. So I've got my coffee ground coarse. Again, this is like French press coarseness. So it's like medium coarse to coarse, depending on how you do your French press. I've got my water. The water is 98 degrees. Your water temperature is going to depend on your coffee roast level. If your coffee is a dark roast, it might be 90 to 92, 93. If it's a light roast like this is, it's going to be somewhere like 95 to all the way to boiling. I found that 98 is kind of my sweet spot. So I'm gonna go with 200 milliliters of water, and then I've got 15 grams of coffee here. And the reason I'm putting the coffee in second, because I've found that if you put the coffee in first, it sticks to the base, and you don't get a proper extraction. So I'm dropping it in the top. I'm also hitting start on the timer. I'm giving it a quick stir, just a gentle stir on the top, and you'll see the grinds are sinking down. And like a French press, I'm waiting about 2.5 minutes. And based on how you like your coffee, you might want that to be 2.5, you might want it to be 3.5, or even up to 5 minutes, depending on how you like your coffee. So we'll sit and wait for the next 2 minutes. Well, this is brewing. I'm gonna put one of the paper filters into the base, and I'm just gonna give it a quick rinse in my hand. That'll clear off any dust or paper flavors from it. But it'll also help stick the paper to the base, and it'll click onto the AeroPress a little bit easier now. And we've still got a minute to wait, so we'll just wait. Boring. Okay, so we're up to 2.5 minutes. We're again gonna give it a stir because we've got a crust that develops on the top of the coffee. Give it a nice good stir this time. That'll kind of knock down the grinds. And then we will put our filter on the top, like so. Click it into place. Take it off the scale. Put our cup below it. I like to do it this way, where I put the cup on top. And then we plunge. Okay, so that's done. We'll take that off. Okay, this is the result, and it is delicious. This is kind of the way I make a cup of coffee if I'm in a hurry on the road. If I just need a caffeine hit and I just want a coffee, or say I'm just wanting to put something into my thermos so I can hit the road with a coffee in my thermos, this is the easiest way to do it. You don't get like crazy nuanced coffee like you would with a pour over, but you do still get a really nice rounded cup of coffee, and you still do taste the nuances of the coffee. This is our Kenya washed AA. It's a Wahandura. It is beautiful, and I still taste blueberry, blackcurrant, honey, lots of honey. So the nuances are still there. It's still a really good cup of coffee, done really easily. I'm gonna set that to the side, and we're gonna do our second version. Okay, recipe number 2 is kind of what I call my latte or Americano recipe. And that's because it's a stronger, almost espresso style coffee that you can add milk or water to if you want. So the way we're gonna do this, again, we're going inverted. So we're gonna plop that up like that. We're gonna put it on our scale. Same water temperature. You can plug this in a little bit farther since it's gonna be a smaller amount. Clear the scale. And we are gonna just put in 100 ml of water this time. And I'm using a way finer grind this time. This is basically espresso grind. We did a video that's pretty similar to this recipe where we tried to make an espresso with the AeroPress. This isn't that fine, but it's close. Basically, we used a brew grinder for this, but we put it on the finest setting and ended up with this. It's 22 grams. It's a little bit stronger than the other one. It's more like your typical specialty coffee shop espresso. So we're gonna dump that all into the top. And again, we're gonna press start and we're gonna give this a stir. And we're gonna give it a good stir, not just like your typical gentle one, but like a good full-on stir for a full 10 seconds. That'll just make sure we get a really strong extraction. We're going to let that brew for 25 more seconds, 25 to 30 more seconds. While that's going down, we're going to wet this other filter, and our 30 seconds is up, just in time. Plop that on the top, take it off the scale, and again, mug on top, and a nice plunge. It's definitely going to be harder to plunge because it's finer, but it's nothing excessive. Anybody could do this, if you will. And you should get about 60 to 70 milliliters of coffee out. If you want to strengthen this, you can go with even less water and an even finer grind. You can kind of play with that. But this leaves you with essentially a large espresso, or a long espresso, if you will. It looks quite dark. This is what I would use if I wanted to add milk or oat milk to a coffee. You can almost, basically, you could do a latte or a flat white with something like this. Or, of course, you can make it an Americano style, or you can drink it like this. So as an espresso, it's a strong cup of coffee. It definitely leans more towards the bitter side, and I really taste a lot of black tea in this cup now. I still get the honey, but there's lots of black tea. So you could drink it like this if you need a quick hit, or you can add water and turn it into an Americano, or add milk and turn it into a latte or a flat white. So it kind of gives you a little bit more flexibility. You can also, you know, try it and then just add water as desired to get it to the level that you like. So that's our Americano latte recipe. Also very good. I tend to use that method almost exclusively personally when I'm wanting to have milk with my coffee. Okay, this is the third and final method. This is the method that I use when I have a ton of time. I'm sitting in a hotel room, I've got lots of time, I want the best cup of coffee possible. It is a little bit intricate, it is a little bit messy, but I think it gets the best cup of coffee possible. So we're going back to inverted. I'm barely putting the plunger in for reasons you'll see later. I'm gonna put that on the scale. Now I'm gonna put 60 grams of water in. And my coffee is like medium coarseness. This is the exact same coarseness I would use for a pour over of this exact same coffee on the Hario V60, if you're curious. So that's 20 grams dumped in. This is kind of like our bloom. We're just gonna give it a quick stir, just the most gentle stir to saturate up all of the coffee or all of the water. I'm gonna hit tare again, and I'm going to start the timer. This is just a quick bloom. This bloom is only 20 seconds. So 20 seconds, wait it out. At 20 seconds, I'm gonna now add 90 grams of water. That'll take us all the way up to 150 grams of water. Just a nice gentle stir. And I'm gonna now wait 30 more seconds. I'm going to clean a filter. That on, rinse it, burn my finger. Okay, 30 seconds is done. This is where this method kind of gets tricky, and some people might not like it for this reason, but we're gonna flip. We're gonna de-plunge. Should just scrape off all of the coffee from the base. It will fall in. We're gonna put that back on the scale. You'll see some coffee already dripping through. That's okay, that's normal. We're gonna clear the scale, and we're gonna add 75 more grams of water. And in doing this, I'm also gonna simultaneously knock off the grounds that are on the end, but only because I'm a little bit OCD. Not that it's gonna make much of a difference. So going up to 75 grams. That brings us to a total of 225 grams of water. We can now take that off. One last quick gentle stir. And then we're gonna plunge, but we're gonna plunge really, really gently. So we're gonna lock it in, and just literally just the weight of your hand, just a really slow press. And I've found that doing it this way tends to give you a really nuanced coffee, and it brings out a lot of sweetness. I'm not really sure the science as to why, but it does a really, really nice job of keeping the nuances of the coffee. Some people would stop as soon as they heard hissing, like that. I've found no difference in pushing all the way through other than it's easier to clean like this. So take that off, and that's the brew method. It's, like I said, a little bit more complicated, but in my opinion, it leads to the most nuanced version of a coffee that I've gotten from an AeroPress. And I absolutely love this cup of coffee. Really sweet, really nuanced, and absolutely delicious. So 3 recipes. Got really fancy, intricate version, really easy French press style, and Americano style. All of them are good, all of them have their purpose, and I use all of them. But I'd love to know which ones you use, so feel free to leave your AeroPress recipes in the comments, and we'll see you next time.